So, on this panel, first we'll have Bastian Feder. He's the co-founder of Lipa. Give it up for Bastian. Just at the end there. We have José. He's a Lightning engineer at ElonPay. Kryštof Korč, he's the COO at Confirmo. And Ben, who's a longtime Bitcoiner and independent consultant. And moderated on this panel, the moderator will be Daniel Wingen. He's the co-initiator at 21. So I'll let you take it away there. Thank you so much.
Hello, hello. Yes, it works. It's working. Awesome. Hello, Prague, again. Nice to see you all. How are you feeling? Are you good? Little tired? Little bit? Okay, let's bring some noise into this discussion here. So before we start, maybe it would be interesting to understand your level of knowledge about Lightning. So whoever used Lightning in this audience here? I would say 50%. Who's running a Lightning node? Okay, a little less. Okay. And who is using Lightning self-custody, so not with a Lightning bank or a Lightning custodian? Okay, interesting. So I would say then let's start with a quick introduction about Lightning. And yeah, Ben, I would like to ask you, maybe let's elaborate a little bit what Lightning actually is and why it's important.
Absolutely. So Lightning is an easy way to make payments instantaneously or near instantaneously with Bitcoin. There are a lot of different ways you can explain it on the technical level, and I don't think we need to go too deep here. But basically speaking, normally when you make a Bitcoin on-chain transaction, what you're doing is you're sending some transaction out into the wider network, and it eventually gets picked up by a miner, and they mine it into a block. And all of this takes time, and you're paying some fees for it. So what Lightning lets you do is have what's called a payment channel with somebody else, and you can update a particular transaction just between the two of you without ever broadcasting it to the network. And there's cryptographic tricks to stop it from letting you broadcast an old state or whatever. But the idea is simply that you're updating this single transaction between two parties. And then if you imagine I'm updating the state between myself and somebody else, and they are updating it between them and a third person, then I can transact with that third person simply by updating the state between me and the other party, and then the other party with that third person. So you can route transactions across the Lightning network in that way without ever having to actually broadcast that transaction and have it be picked up by a miner and wait for all of that. So you've got this near instantaneous settlement happening. That's kind of the basics of Lightning.
Yeah, do you have something to add here? Because otherwise I would move on to the next question, which is, I think, Bastian, do you want to add something?
I mean, it's not only like this peer-to-peer transaction for Lightning. You pretty well explained it, like how the network works. If you look at it from a user perspective, it's usually you have a wallet on your phone, you scan a QR code, and then you send magically money from A to B. This is why we're here. We are all bringing up services to make it very easy for the users to really use the Lightning Network, not having like the deep understanding in it. So this is actually the beauty from the stuff we do.
Cool.
I would just add one thing, that we just should have had it sooner.
That's a good point. So all of you are working on Lightning-based solutions to improve payments, make it easier to use Lightning for individuals, but also for merchants. And I would be interested in understanding, and I mean, of course, some of you are founders, some of you are working with companies who are building something, but what made you personally be interested in building on Lightning? Maybe, Bastian, can you start?
Sure. When I first got to know the Lightning Network, I was blown away by not only the speed, but also by the security it comes with. There's no chargeback, there's instant settlement, and I mean instant, like within seconds, which outbursts MasterCard, Visa card by numbers. So, and even then, that I could also run my own node and be self-sovereign in terms of I have control over my assets, I am my own bank. I was totally sold immediately.
José, yeah.
Okay, I would say that as an engineer myself, I came from cybersecurity background, and then I discovered Bitcoin, then I just started to research about it at technical level, and then I discovered Lightning. You know, on-chain Bitcoin is super hard to develop. It's like sometimes has politics, but what amazes me about the Lightning network, like the technical level, but also is like the innovation. Like Lightning is really easy to innovate. Like the ecosystem of Lightning, you can really move forward. Like people are actually pushing. There are a lot of implementations. Like the ecosystem is vibing, right? So I compare that to the on-chain world in the sense that Lightning is super energy. The energy level in the Lightning network is super amazing to me as an engineer, right? So that was made me fall in love with this technology, and I said, okay, on-chain is a good store of value. It's a good technology. But I think we need to push forward, and making Bitcoin payments instantly is what is going to make the usability the next level. So I think Lightning is the first step. There are going to be other networks in the future. That's true. But Lightning is the best we have today to keep pushing this oriented wall, right? And that's what makes me super happy.
Chris, what's your inspiration?
It was totally practical because simply on-chain transactions are getting, as confirmed with payment gateway, on-chain transactions are getting clunky at least past time. So getting Lightning was practical stuff, and we also want to widen the environment in this kind of a way to enable people paying with Bitcoin and to remain with Bitcoin actually on the payment gateway, because many gateways got away from it, got onto other chains, other coins. And we want to stick with the old good solution. So that's why implementing Lightning was a logical step towards that.
When you were quite a while already in Lightning, and I think you also work for different companies, but what inspired you personally to look into Lightning and also join companies to help them?
So for me, I actually have some very selfish reasons for being interested in Lightning. I've been around Bitcoin since 2010, so a very long time now. And when I first started using it, of course, there was no Lightning network. Everything was just payments on-chain. And I decided in 2017 that I'm not going to hold fiat currency anymore. I'm only going to hold Bitcoin, and I'm going to use Bitcoin directly wherever possible. Making payments on-chain in a person-to-person kind of environment, like walking into a shop and paying for something using a normal on-chain payment, is a terrible user experience, and most merchants aren't happy with that kind of environment because you can maybe get the goods, walk out, and then you can replace that on-chain payment before it actually goes through. So there's various technical ways you can almost cheat merchants with online payments. So Lightning enables merchants to very easily receive in-person payments, and that means it makes my life easier being somebody living on Bitcoin. I can just walk into a merchant, know that they are going to accept a Lightning payment if they accept Bitcoin at all, and it makes it much easier for merchants to say, okay, I will accept Lightning. So I can now walk into lots of different places and spend my Bitcoin directly in a far easier way than ever was possible before Lightning existed.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the challenges of Lightning and the complications which might arise if you want to use Lightning as an individual, as a consumer, but also as a business. Chris, what would you say is the largest challenge in the Lightning, with the Lightning network, which needs to be solved in order to get more users and more volume into the network?
Well, from my perspective, it's mainly the main challenge is actually maintaining the node, because having hundreds and thousands of transactions daily, mainly incoming, it gets hard. It gets hard actually to keep the node running and keep everything smooth, as it should be. But talking about the adoption, right, we actually need. We need everything more streamlined and, how to put it, well explained, simply in terms of having easy means of payments and having apps that work well. And I guess that we still don't have as many wallets as we would need with a good UX and solutions that are user-friendly and on-ramps.
Okay, so we have on-ramps and we have user-friendliness in terms of the administration of the technology, which imposes definitely complexity. Jose, what are your experiences? With what kind of problems are you dealing when you build on Lightning?
Yeah, in terms of the user, you're asking, right? So we actually found that withdrawals are really hard for the users. That's something, because we have actual telemetry of the data, and because Lightning there are many protocols where how you can do withdrawals. You can do the native invoices, you can do URL, this kind of stuff. There are more things coming. So we detected that the people were trying to use different wallets with different protocols, but they don't support that. So we started to think, okay, we need to increase the UX, and we need to solve this problem, like making a wizard for people how to actually do a withdrawal. Like, it's super important for the users. There are many wallets, many implementations, not all of them are compatible. So I think that's a problem. One of the biggest problems we found, because deposits are kind of easy, because you just scan a QR code, but withdrawal was really challenging for the users, and that's actually our point of work right now.
Bastian, I'm particularly interested in your perspective. You tried different kind of approaches to solve the challenges Lightning imposes when you want to build on it, specifically merchant solutions, but also consumer solutions. How did you mitigate these issues, and what were the learnings?
I mean, running a merchant node, I mean, there are different stages of a node, a routing node, a consumer node where you just spend, and then the merchant node where you basically receive payments. Running a merchant node is actually, from channel liquidity base, very, very easy. So you just see that you have a lot of inbound liquidity and do swap outs. Running a consumer wallet makes the Lightning service provider part way, way harder in terms of there's a lot of bound liquidity in the channels. There's a lot of bound liquidity in the payments which go back and forth. So the Lightning service provider, the Lightning service provider has to have a lot of bound liquidity, bound assets, which are basically not to be used anymore, rather than for sending payments back and forth. So I think one big point is that we have to try to open the perception of banks, the perception of other companies, that this is actually an asset which could be lent against, or which could be like used in other cases if we do just a slight change in how those payment channels are set up. So I mean, from the business perspective, we have to see that we free those bound assets to have, like Michael Saylor said earlier, to have actually an asset to borrow against, so that we can leverage more money to build more and better products.
Ben, you're observing the protocol development basically from the very beginning, and you've seen that some challenges were solved over time, specifically also the challenge of liquidity deployment or liquidity management with LSPs. I would be interested in learning more from you. what are the challenges which were improved on a protocol level in a way that you think this is sufficient enough? And also, do you see a problem with LSPs leading to maybe a centralization of the network?
So that's actually a very interesting question, because I think most of the big problems that we face are not protocol related. I think most of the big problems we face are actually usage related, especially when it comes to liquidity. So the biggest problem with liquidity was kind of hinted at already, in that you have, for example, merchants who are primarily receiving, you have consumers who are primarily sending, but in the real world, money doesn't actually work like that. You receive money and you send money all the time. You get paid by your employer and you pay for things in your daily life. So nobody in the real world is primarily receive or primarily send. In the real world, money is coming in both directions all the time. And that's not something that we need to solve on a protocol level, because the protocol is designed for that already. That's the way the protocol works. What we need is a change in user perspective and a change in behavior that causes, or that will allow more people to be both senders and receivers. And I think there are a lot of different things that can be done there, but for example, you imagine merchants paying their employees using Bitcoin, using the same channels that they received payments on. It solves that liquidity issue for them. And I think those are the kinds of things that we need to be looking a lot more at. As for things which have already been solved on the protocol level, there's always been a lot of little things here and there. Something I'm actually looking forward to a lot is better types of payment channels. I'm actually really excited by something very new called Hedgehog. I'm assuming most people out here in the audience have never heard of Hedgehog, but it's a type of payment channel which is not necessarily related to Lightning, but can be used as a type of Lightning channel, whereby you don't have to have both sides online at the same time. So one of the concerns that people have with Lightning a lot of the time is that you have to have both the sender and the receiver being online at the same time, otherwise you can't make a transaction. With Hedgehog, that's not necessary, so I think that opens a lot of new alternatives, new ways of doing things, and could make the experience much easier for people.
I'm interested in what you said about changing user behaviors. I mean, wouldn't that imply that, or did I understand it correctly, that you're implying that users would kind of need to have a better understanding of how Lightning work, and that it's also a task of the wallet provider to explain Lightning better? Or do you think it's more important to abstract the complexity away, that it's just working and the user can just use it? I was a little confused with this answer.
I would say very much the latter. I think the only way to get people to do something is to get people to want to do something. And I think it's ridiculous to say, hey, user, you're using it wrong. That's just, that's stupid. So I'd rather say, let's make tools, make environments that make it easier for the user to actually do that sort of thing.
I mean, changing users' behaviors is a good thing, and I'm totally for it. But isn't it like the sole purpose of LNPay and Lipa, by the way, to get all those difficult and highly complex situations out of the hands of the merchants? Surely it would be very wishful if the merchant could pay for their goods and their services in Bitcoin as well, but we are not there yet. So we have to find solutions at that point that we can make it very easy for the merchants also to get their Bitcoin back. Let's say like via Lightning address payments, so they receive Bitcoin over our nodes and get like their payments off to their own wallet, and then can see how they can spend their money. Even like off-ramping, as you said before, on and off-ramping is a huge deal here, because even if the Bitcoin income is probably less than 1%, if even, they still have to pay for their services, pay her for their goods. So I salute you that we really want to change the environment and really want to change the people. But on the way there, we really have the need for tools and for even services which mitigate all those stresses and all those complexity for the merchants. Because the merchant wants to solely concentrate, focus on his own business. He has troubles finding the goods, finding the services for himself. And then at the end, he does not really want to care about like which currency do I take and why do I take it, and how easy or how complex is it to handle it.
And it works both ways actually, or it is on both sides, because we still don't have enough tools to actually, or I don't want to say we don't have enough of them. We don't have enough sophisticated tools to manage nodes, to handle liquidity and stuff like that. All those practical things need to get a little bit easier, a little bit more streamlined, and at that point when we are going to be able to easily automate these tasks, then we are going to be settled enough to start funneling the money, actually.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, we see a lot of solutions popping up in different kind of directions with different kind of approaches how to solve these challenges and make Lightning more accessible for businesses, but also for consumers, so that they don't need to understand protocol, liquidity management, and whatsoever. But okay, we understand Lightning is not easy, especially specifically also for the average user who barely understands Bitcoin. So typically, these users go to a custodial solution. So using Lightning custodial is obviously super simple because you don't need to take care of anything. It's like a bank account, and you can just pay a Lightning invoice with this bank account. But coming back to the question of risk in terms of centralization and also in terms of centralization through custodians, do you see a risk in, specifically on the consumer side, that more and more consumers will tend to use custodial solutions, not only from a user experience perspective, but also from a price perspective, because a custodian can always allow cheaper transactions than using an LSP?
Okay, so short answer, yes, there is definitely a risk of centralization into custodians, but I think that's actually where people building the tools can make a real difference. I think pretty much all of us on this stage are involved in some way in building tools that make it easier to not have to deal with custodians, and as long as those tools are built correctly and in the right kind of way, I think we can provide enough incentive to say, hey, don't use this custodian, use self-custodial instead, and here's an easier way to do it. Even if some of the management might then be centralized. So you can have a situation where the Bitcoin itself is decentralized, it's self-custodial, the people hold their own keys, but a lot of the management of it, how do we look after the node, how do we manage the liquidity, how do we do all that kind of stuff, that is in a more centralized kind of way in the hands of somebody who's managing things. But of course, at least the user, the merchant, whoever they are, can get their own funds out at any time without having to ask somebody.
Yes, I mean, I'm all for self-custodian, and I'm all for being empowered to be your own bank. But as you said before, we still have to develop the right tools to make it very easy for people also be in possession of their own private keys. I mean, there are companies out there building enormous and very beautiful products about co-custody. And so that if you lose your keys, you don't lose your coins. And this is a concept which goes through my head like for a long time now. Even with our products, they are all self-custodian. Our customers hold their own keys. But still, we always, like for our business solution, we actually ask our merchant after a week, did you really write down your private keys? Did you do the backup? Before we actually pay out to their personal wallet. So we had a lot of cases where people came back to us and said like, oh, I lost my keys, or I lost my phone, I deleted the application, but now I want to use it again, and I had, I don't know, amount of Satoshis on it. So in this case, we actually, since we were still in temporary custody, we could still pay out to the customers, and the Bitcoin were not lost. On the other hand, talking about like custodian wallets, there's always the risk that even if you lose even if it's a custodian and you do not sign up with an email address or do not give some credentials, that if you lose your wallet, your coins are gone as well. So there's no protection anymore losing your coins if you don't have the backup. And the backup could be the email or the keys by yourself.
Number.
Keys by yourself, yes.
Yeah. I'm specifically interested in you personally onboarding new people to Lightning. Maybe your taxi driver, you want to tip him with like €2 in Lightning. Would you do it self-custody? The first wallet for someone to tip, would you do it self-custody? Because I'm thinking about the LSP, opening a channel, don't know what the liquidity is. You as a company who is supplying the LSPs with liquidity or being a LSP yourself, actually.
We don't.
Yeah, but you have an LSP partner, so he would be interested in opening channels to wallets, obviously have quite a significant throughput, ideally, and not just receiving like €2 and 1.5 of the euros goes already to channel opening and the user has a bad experience maybe. So how can we deal with that? Is it possible to onboard people directly on Lightning self-custody or not?
I'm a bit biased at the moment because we just launched our own self-custodian wallet. But we solved this problem in, even if we have small amounts of to send to a newbie to really onboard him into a new wallet. We had hard discussions with our LSP to keep the rates low and to overpay the to be opened channel like a lot. So currently we're using a system which is not able to do splicing. Other thing, just to increase or decrease the channel capacity without opening new channels or have to close a channel. So we had the hard discussions with our LSP to keep those fees low. So we brought them to a bare minimum of 2,500 Satoshis at the moment. So with this, we are able to onboard, even with small amounts, 5,000–10,000 Satoshis, new people, and have like a channel which is almost like 10–15 euros, or the Satoshi equivalent of it. I don't have it at the moment. So with this, I think we have a good choice to bring people directly into self-custody. Before I had this, I'm a victim of custody as well. So I sent people to a custodian service, but made them aware of having their own backup. So, and I fell into this as well because the most prominent wallet which is used at the moment,
this wallet of Satoshi,
yes,
and of course there's a centralization risk.
Doesn't make it really clear that if you really want to be in possession or able to recover your wallet, you really have to bring in some personal information as in an email or whatever. So you can send them an email to recover the wallet afterwards. If you don't do this, you're as screwed as with a self-custody wallet.
I'm curious about you guys. Do you onboard the people you are tipping, or you're just orange-pilled to Lightning self-custody or custody?
Well, I think that in this world we are already used to, this question doesn't have a definite answer, and it's a good thing, actually. We want to have multiple choices, and we want to have a rich environment of services that work both ways in this field. So I'm not turned to either side.
So depending on the knowledge of the person you're talking to, or like the skills.
What fits you, fits you.
And the amount, yeah, of course.
Yeah, 100% agreed there. Yep.
I would say that I always like the analogy of like for Lightning to me is like your pocket, right? So whether you are using a custodial service or not, you need to think of Lightning like a pocket. You don't put all your savings on Lightning. So we all need to think about like, and I say to people like, use whatever you feel more comfortable to, right? If you really want to hold the keys, okay, are you really sure you are going to manage that in a proper way? Are you sure that the software is actually working well? Because Lightning non-custodial is super hard from a technical point of view, right? So I always say, it depends on your model. Like, you really want to have a lot of money or not? Because to me, on-chain is the bank, right? You have your bank account, that's on-chain. You should, okay, that should be cold storage. You should have your own keys. that needs to be super secure. You have your life savings. But for Lightning, maybe the complexity is too much to have it non-custodially, and you can actually lose money. I know a lot of people that lost a lot of money because they went the non-custodial way. Because, I mean, the protocol is super hard. So I would say, use what you think on your model. But yeah, use this. It's a pocket. You don't put your life savings there. So it's not that big of a deal that you put money in a custodial service, right?
I was just
Oh,
agree.
yeah, Ben,
I mean,
sorry.
Sorry, good. I mean, from my perspective is, yes, Lightning Network, the Lightning thing is a very complex thing if you have a deep dive into it. I mean, but in the Bitcoin world, we now have like the Bitcoin design group. We have like a lot of UX designers, a lot of UX experts, and also UI experts who are really looking into this thing and really have the passion and also have the funds and the knowledge of bringing you very good UX and UI to those wallets, to those users. And with this, I think we have to shift our terminology a bit. So don't talk about like Lightning channels and liquidity anymore. Probably talk better about subscriptions. People understand subscriptions much better than, okay, now you have to get some inbound liquidity and now your outbound liquidity is not high enough. No, why don't we change our terminology in that point that we say, for you as a user, you have total power over your assets, and we provide you with a subscription that you actually have the ability to receive and to send funds. Why don't we not talk about like a transaction anymore? What is about spending and receiving? All those stuff, I think this is what we with Lipa also think a lot about now, going into the user-faced market as well. There has to be kind of more mitigated wording that we actually make it much more easy to understand for the common user.
And talking about such complex concepts regarding Lightning is, I guess that's a gravitation out of its primary function. It should be your wallet when you keep your, I don't know, your banknotes, and if you lose it, then you just lost a few coins. And it's primarily for payments, so that's where it should be. It should be as easy as it gets, and I guess asking the question if it should be custodial or not custodial in terms of how complex and difficult it actually is a little bit of overkill, I guess.
Yeah, I would add to that though. I'm going to actually push back a little bit on the whole terminology thing, because I think we need to be very careful to not obfuscate, not confuse matters by using bad terminology that doesn't make sense. If somebody is going to be truly self-custodial, if somebody has actually got control over their funds, they have to have some knowledge of how it works. That's just a part of the responsibility of being a self-custodian. You know, if you keep a large amount of gold in a safe in your house, it's your responsibility to know where the gold is and how heavy the safe is and how hard it is for somebody to come in, how hard it is to unlock that safe. You need to know these things, otherwise somebody's going to come and steal your gold.
But you don't need to know how the safe inner workings are structured.
Correct.
And work.
Correct.
So you can abstract some complexity away through services,
so
right?
We need to be careful about what abstractions we make and how we make them and how we describe them. I think it is good to have those kinds of things, but there always needs to be that linkage back to the actual underlying behavior, so that somebody who wants to go down that road, somebody who feels like that's their interest, somebody who's managing a large amount of funds, for example, should have that kind of knowledge and be able to go into that level. Otherwise, I think we're doing them a disservice.
I think we can talk for like more than an hour now about the technical and economical challenges of Lightning, but we are all here to solve these challenges, right? So let's go to the positive sides of Lightning, or back to the positive sides of Lightning and not the challenges. So what is the benefit for a merchant to adopt Lightning as a payment, either for their online shop or for their business in general? So Ben, do you want to start here? What is the benefit of Lightning and how is specifically the solution you are working on helping here?
Yep, absolutely. So the benefit of Lightning is quite simply that it's much, much easier for merchants to take payments. That's kind of the simple thing. They can take Bitcoin payments in a way that they don't have to think as much about it as compared to other ways. The specific solution that I'm working on at the moment, I'm working with a company called Musket, and we build a payment terminal that accepts both Bitcoin and fiat payments in one. So a lot of the time you walk into a shop and you see there's a Bitcoin sticker on the front window and you say, I'd like to pay in Bitcoin. And they say, oh, only the boss has that on his phone. Or we've got this strange little terminal device, but it's out the back and it ran out of batteries because nobody's asked us to use it in weeks. By using a Musket terminal, the same terminal that they take their fiat card payments on also takes Bitcoin payments. It's also fully self-custodial if the merchant wants it to be. So we spin up a node in the cloud for them, and that is what is actually generating the Lightning invoices for them. But we also do the liquidity management. So essentially we act as a node in the middle, kind of like an LSP, but on a much, much smaller, simpler scale. Alternatively, if they don't want to accept Bitcoin, they don't want to receive Bitcoin, they want to accept it, but then immediately convert it, then we can actually generate invoices directly from our exchange partner, so we never actually need to touch the flow of funds at all. So the funds are going directly from the customer to the exchange, and then the merchant is being paid out in fiat.
It's interesting. We see this a lot, right, with merchants receiving Bitcoin via Lightning, but actually want to have it in fiat on their bank account. Do you also offer that?
Yeah, that's very similar with us at Confirmo. We have POS app as well, and also we are integrated in Querco. So anywhere in Czech Republic where this system is integrated, you actually can buy your lunch using Lightning through Confirmo. So yeah, we use it also, and for the merchants, it's as easy as it gets. You actually don't even need to install any additional app. You just need to have Querco in your business, which is pretty common.
Lightning is super easy if we figure out the ways to make it easier, to help people to not take care of protocol stuff or liquidity management, right?
That's exactly what it is, actually.
Yeah, I think at LMPay, one of the things that we don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? So we are actually compliant, and we are actually compatible with already with open source software, like BTC server. It's a great project. So basically, we search this ecosystem and we say, okay, BTC server is like a great tool, merchants who use it, but we wanted to go more on the enterprise grade. So we actually are compatible with the BTC server API. So we have a POS, and actually we are compatible with all already existing open source project in BTC server. Because why reinvent the wheel? So our focus on enterprise solution is actually our own core team, like fully engineered team, all 24/7 the years. So I would say that reinventing the wheel is key to this area.
Bastian, what is your perspective on that? And do your customers, specifically the merchants, want to receive euros as well, or do they typically also keep the Bitcoin?
Since our customers are usually onboarded by the 21 community, so we have very low amounts of customers who really wants to see the fiat exchange. So they most of the time love to see, like how Satoshi just said it, like if you work for it and earn your Bitcoin and then keep it or spend it in an economy. So most of our merchants actually hold their Bitcoin. But as we found out daily, the price tag in terms of, yes, you have a fiat on-ramp is like the door opener for everyone. So everybody kind of wants to have the Bitcoin, but still wants
like
to
there's a backup more, right? Or have
yes,
a good feeling in mind. Okay.
Really wants to have like the backup if they need some money and to pay for their services, so they have the actually possibility to cash out into fiat. Yes, and this is what we do as well. We have like the brokerage license for Switzerland, where we can actually, for the EU and for Switzerland, have the exchange from Bitcoin to fiat and fiat to Bitcoin.
Yeah, to add my 5 cents here, 2 sats, I mean, not 5 cents. I think the most important part of Lightning is that it's instant and that it's not reversible. So basically, it's
There's
like
no
cash, you
chargeback.
paid it, and it's done, right? So it's settled. And this is amazing specifically for merchants because there's no chargeback and stuff like this. So, but we are almost over time now. We are over time now. But I would like to get one last thing from you, and this is the first word which comes into your mind when you think about Lightning.
Fast.
Fast. Okay.
That's what I wanted to say.
Okay.
For me, it's secure. No chargeback, instant settlement, all the perks you don't have in the fiat system. This is, for me, the security.
Nice.
Instantaneous. That's the first.
Awesome.
I would say.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for listening.